This is the Daimyo Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate third part of What If Naruto was betrayed by Leaf after Pain Attack. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Hokage Tower. The following day Tsunade sighed, for the council was demanding Naruto's head after discovering that he was the one who had caused all of the village's damage. They believed that where the other villages failed, they could succeed, demonstrating their continued superiority, and that they needed to be the valiant resistance against the despotism of the Akatsuki leader, Yokecage, and self-proclaimed Demon Lord. Tsunade questioned, observing the group of council members who were primarily older than she was and the clan heads on the other hand, saying, considering what this villages has done to Naruto, didn't it ever occur to you that this was a self-fulfilling prophecy, especially when we banished him? A fat old council member who appeared to have been around since the third Hokage said, we did what was necessary to humble the demon. To teach it that we humans are the superior race in this world and that it should know its place at our feet. Tsunade yelled, scowling at the man's sneer at her like she was a little girl who had not yet matured. The information we have been able to gather tells us his father was not some random shinobi, it was the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, who if I recall, saved you all from being slaughtered at the Kyuubi's feet. That is an outrageous lie. I don't care what you, the third Hokage, or the records pertaining to the supposed demon's birth. That boy was a demon made human and we had a chance to finally get rid of him after the invasion of pain. If you were awake, you would have given him mercy, said the corpulent council member, who received nods from other people. Tsunade growled, getting beaten up on his birthday or starving him if not giving him rotten food is your version of mercy. Shikaku, the father of Shino, Shibi Aburame, Shuza Akamichi, the father of Choji, Hiyashi Hyuga, the father of Hinata, Murakumo Kurama, the head of the Kurama clan, and Sasuke, the only Uchiha, Inoichi present as the Yamanaka clan's representative, saw their eyes widen. The obese members of the council, who Tsunade sensed were arrogant about having knowledge of Naruto's demise, scoffed, as I said before, it was done to humble the beast. Shizaki nodded as he approached the council member, his eyes bulging out and he started to protest. Humbling someone through starvation and beatings. I think I see your point. Shizaki, seize all this man's assets, his home if it's not destroyed, and see to it that any place that still sells food given to him and his family is little to nothing, what the nothing they get being rotten. Tsunade ordered. The man got up from his seat, screaming, what are you doing? You can't do this to me. Tsunade grinned a little too sweetly for his liking. I think this is a perfect way to humble you, wouldn't you say? Tsunade asked, watching the man grow pale and sputter more protests at her words knowing she had turned his own against him. You said it yourself. You tried to humble Naruto by starving him. So I'm using that on you to see if it works. I'm also issuing that anyone who wishes to beat shit out of you, and going so far as to kill your family will not be punished. You are going beyond your authority, Homura retorted, earning a fierce glare from her. He realized he had unintentionally provoked her anger towards him. Tsunade shot back, observing the various council members looking nervous at the thought that they would be royally screwed if the Fire Daimyo found out about what had happened. Like you did when you, Danzo and Kaharu went above yours and banished Naruto from the village after the invasion of pain when I was in a coma. When you banned Naruto from most stores. When you denied the third Hokage the right to watch over Naruto when his parents died. How many times did all of you overstep your bounds and hide it from the Fire Daimyo? Tsunade shot back. Though Kaharu mostly spoke to herself and was unaware that Tsunade heard her, she made the comment, like the Fire Daimyo would let the demon run around unchecked. Tsunade grinned and said, it's funny you should say that, Kaharu, because it turns out from my sources that the Fire Daimyo himself is coming here and he apparently wants answers to this situation. She was really amused by the council's shocked looks as they realized how quickly the Fire Daimyo learned about their predicament. As she ran into the room, looking deathly pale, Shizune exclaimed, Tsunade, come quick, it's Yamato. The council members mistook her worried voice for one of relief. An individual with a lanky build and a thin mustache commented, so he did it, I knew he would be able to kill the demon. No, he didn't. Hiyashi and the other clan heads agreed, observing the expression on Shizune's face and realizing that the wood user was not going to win. The council member retorted, what do you mean? You heard her, Yamato has returned, meaning he killed the demon. When the once happy council members stood up to look out the window, after Tsunade had already left to find Yamato. Shizune exclaimed, look out the window," in a voice that bordered on hysteria. When Tsunade finally made it to him outside in the middle of Konoha Square, everyone gasped and she broke down in tears. Yamato was crucified in front of her, his body covered in sharp, thick chains, blood streaming down it everywhere, and it appeared as though he was almost dead from the look in his eyes. Her grief was exacerbated by memories of Dan, Nawaki, and Naruto close to death. A number of the villagers came into the square and watched in agony as Tsunade attempted to free him, grabbing the spiked chains and wincing each time as her hand became covered in blood from both Yamato and herself. Every time she pulled on one, he would scream as more blood spurted from his wounds, hurting him more and more. Eventually, she realized that he was trapped in a way that would only make him worse and possibly kill him. Before coughing up blood, Yamato murmured, "Tsunade, let me die." His voice sounded raspy, exhausted, and broken down compared to his usual tone. Tsunade tried to break the chains that bound Yamato in this way again, but she stopped when he let out another cry of pain. What? Yamato, what the hell are you saying? Konoha needs you. How can you simply ask me to just let you die? She exclaimed. Before coughing up more blood that fell less than a few inches from her, Yamato said, "I deserve this, Tsunade. Everyone here, cough. Who has wronged Naruto, has only just begun to suffer, and suffer they will without a doubt." Tsunade questioned, was it really Naruto? As she considered the veracity of Inoichi's earlier remarks. Yamato didn't give an answer to her query. Using Yamato's real name this time, Tsunade asked again, "Takiro, was it really Naruto?" Sasuke emerged from the Hokage tower and stood a few feet away from Tsunade, just close enough to hear Yamato say, "Yes. It's Naruto, and he's out for blood. Only those on his side will he deem mercy, and right now we're next on his list for annihilation right before one final person he has to deal with." Glancing back at Sasuke, Tsunade said, "That doesn't give us enough time. We can prepare some kind of counter-attack against him, a possible sealing, or maybe some kind of jutsu that will send him from this world." She then turned to watch Yamato shake his head. "Don't be stupid, Tsunade. We had this coming to us for a long time now, and you know that just as much as I do. We left the son of the fourth Hokage to the mercy of angry wolves that were out for blood the very moment they learned the Kyuubi was sealed inside of him. We left him to be mauled when we should have protected him. We deserve to suffer like this for not protecting him like Kushina and Minato wanted us to do when they passed on." Yamato, noticing that she had tears in her eyes that were filled with amazement at what she was seeing. Tsunade choked, "What did he do to you?" noticing that his eyes were lifeless and empty of any substance. "He showed what I know, what all of us should have seen from the beginning, Tsunade. He showed me the truth behind human arrogance and his memories. As soon as these chains touched me, I became overwhelmed with his entire life, seeing the 20 years of it flash before my eyes. With that pain backing him, he won't stop until this entire village is painted red with our blood," Yamato said before he began laughing erratically, the agony coursing through his body. Before attempting to treat his wounds, Tsunade tried to free him once more and warned, "Stop it, or you'll die faster." Yamato, who was still laughing, said, "I can't help it, Tsunade. I just find it funny that the people of this village willingly banished the man that hates them the most, allowing him to grow in power and return to destroy them." Tsunade was then forced to use her strength to strike Yamato in the head, knocking him out. Tsunade asked herself, have we really fallen so far? Just before several Anbu arrived to pick up Yamato and bring him to the hospital. Tsunade nodded silently as they made their way back into the Hokage tower as she watched him leave. Sasuke approached her and placed his hand on her shoulder. The Fox Summons, on top of a building with a view of the square, watched as they went through the tower's doors and then jumped after the crucified Yamato and the Anbu in an attempt to arrive there before them and complete their secondary mission. Room 12. Konoha Hospital. The sound of a voice asked, "Do you think he's asleep or just drugged?" The older man stirred slightly. A second, deeper voice said, "I think it's the latter. Look, he's moving slightly." As soon as Danzo was completely conscious, the artificial eye in one of his eye sockets opened and continued to enlarge upon noticing the few foxes gathered around the bed, staring at them with their crimson eyes. One of them grinned, "Hello there, Naruto sends his regards." Danzo began to fear immediately for what they would do to him. Danzo thought wildly, "He's come back to finish me off," and heard the foxes laugh as they noticed the crippled man's heart monitor beep repeatedly. "Are you sleeping well, Danzo?" inquired the fox's leader, who had a deep voice. With a toothy grin at the various tubes they had stuck into the man, the first fox next to the leader asked, "How's that morphine they give you every day to make sure you don't feel any pain?" Being the closest fox to Danzo's face, the one with a scar over his right eye, questioned, "How many people have come to visit to offer their condolences for you?" The man shivered in fear. Wishing he could talk, Danzo exclaimed, "Why don't they just kill me like I know he wants them to?" But, given how mauled he was from Naruto's attack, it was rather difficult. Furthermore, even if he had the ability to speak, the former man would undoubtedly pronounce everything correctly. The third fox picked up the clipboard that was hanging off of Danzo's bed and read it, sneering, "You're probably wondering why you aren't dead yet, Danzo. And for a good reason, since according to your medical charts here you should have died long before Shizaki found you. They've called it a miracle from God that you survived my wrath, and no doubt the teachers at the academy have had students go on field trips to visit you. What they don't know, however, is that you are allowed to live not by the medical skills the doctors possess, not by the will of God, and certainly not by your determination to survive, since Naruto distinctly heard you begging for your death," said the first fox as he stared at Danzo. As the leader saw the man's eye widen in shock and fear, he remarked, "No, you are alive because our master wishes it so." "What did they say?" Danzo asked, his panic rising at the realization that he was still alive thanks to a demon's strength. The first fox once more smiled evilly as he watched Danzo's heart monitor start beeping even faster, Danzo trying to escape no matter how pointless. "Or rather, you were until our master thought otherwise. Right now he's gotten quite sick and tired of wasting his chakra to sustain your life. So he sent us all here to tell you that when you die, you're going on a one-way trip to where you belong, straight down to hell. Now you're probably thinking that because of your so-called noble deeds concerning our boss makes you think that you are going to go up there with the angels and fluffy clouds. What you don't know is that because of your sins mixed with the invisible demonic chakra thread tied to your body grants you a one-way trip in the opposite direction. Did you really think you were going up after doing and organizing all that shit against our master? Your beliefs in that you did the greater good in what you did to our master was greatly misplaced, and now you are going to pay fully when he sends your soul into hell to be tortured for all eternity by countless hordes of demons," snarled the leader before letting out a wicked laugh that made Danzo tremble in fear even more before they all disappeared in a cloud of smoke. For an instant, he experienced no harm, leading Danzo to believe that the demon was merely using fear to increase his fear of dying. Then it took place. Like he was having a heart attack, only 10 times worse, his heart started to constrict. He had the impression that someone was crushing his heart from the inside out. His guts felt like they were about to burst and his lungs were being torn apart. Had he been more composed, he would have realized why none of the medical personnel had visited him, despite the fact that the machines keeping track of his vital signs were now blaring all around him. With 2 guards outside his room wearing genjutsu, the hospital alert system that was connected to his room had been turned off, leading them to believe that everything was okay. However, the security guards watching the cameras in the former council member's room for that wing had been killed, and the monitor displaying the room had been heavily stained in crimson red after being turned off. Danzo Shimura, the War Hawk, died in a matter of minutes, his painful death visible in his one remaining eye as clear as day. It would be too late to take action by the time someone arrived to check on him or find out what had happened to the others, and Tsunade knew right away who was to blame as soon as she heard of this. The demon lord of the shinobi countries is Akuma Uzumaki. Unknown place. Looking at the wall of weapons the ancient Uchiha had gathered over the years, the man with the red eyes exclaimed, "The old lair of Madara Uchiha. What a place." As the man removed the hood of his cloak to reveal his long, shaggy black hair and the 2 locks that framed his face with bandages, Jubi said, "Yes. This location will suit well for our plans." A smile played at the corner of his lips as he scanned the room with his red eyes, which were beginning to take the shape of a swirl rather than a regular pupil. The man laughed evilly, bouncing off the walls of the large cavern, then said, "Quite so, Jubi. Once we get done with the preparations, the plan shall proceed as planned." He then sat down on a stone throne resting before a gigantic flower that stretched miles up into the gigantic cavern. Hokage Tower. Conference space trying to win over the feudal lord, Homura said, "We are honored to have you grace us with your presence, Lord Shijimi, sir." However, judging by the look on the feudal lord's face and the horde of hired samurai behind him, there was no positive aspect to it. "Do not even attempt to flatter me, Homura. I have heard many interesting things that reached my walls about Konoha, and I am finding them to be most unpleasant when they are spoken," said Lord Shijimi, the fire daimyo. His spouse, Madame Shijimi, is an entirely distinct fire daimyo, akin to the one featured in Naruto Shippuden Movie 3, Inheritors of the Will of Fire. He had a short goatee, thin white eyebrows, and narrow eyes. He was a well-educated, well-built man. He wore a red and white robe with 2 strands of red fabric tied with yellow buttons that went over his shoulders, across his chest, and back where the robe joined itself. He wore a tall black hat with the kanji for fire written in red just above a yellow diamond in the center. A symbol the council was watching with concern over one shoulder was the Akatsuki cloud. A belt with a sheath around it that concealed a long katana was strapped around his waist. Tsunade, seated at the head of the table with the clan heads and Shizune standing behind her, said, "My apologies for Homura's stupidity, Lord Shijimi, but as you can see, Konoha has not been what it once was during the days of the first Hokage up till the second reign of the third Hokage, after the fourth Hokage's death." Shizaki was seated in one chair on her left, while Shikaku was seated in another. Lord Shijimi, eyeing them all and grinning silently in his head at seeing them shift nervously in their seats, said, "Ah yes, the fourth Hokage, who I believed was the one that sealed the Kyuubi into his own son to save the village from certain destruction. Tell me, how was Naruto treated when growing up here in Konoha?" The daimyo saw Kaharu's deception right away and grinned. "He was treated well, Lord Shijimi." "Are you sure?" he asked, glancing at each of them and maintaining an even tone. He looked to Tsunade for a response, and as he saw her sigh and give him a look, he let out a deep breath and put his right hand on the katana's hilt. Wondering what Tsunade had done to make him sigh and shake his head, Homura asked, "Is everything all right, Lord Shijimi?" "Everything is wrong, Homura. I leave this village go unsupervised from my watchful eyes because I had believed that the third Hokage could handle it when his successor died. Now I find this council has lied to me, lied to its people, and has manipulated events for their own benefit rather than that of its people. Through your actions you created a new demon lord that hates you, despises you, and wants to see you all burn in the lowest levels of hell," said Lord Shijimi before taking a deep breath. The daimyo shocked the council members even more when he said, "And quite frankly, with the information that was delivered to me, I'm inclined to agree with him, and simply let him destroy this village in one swift stroke." Kaharu, giving him a strange, deranged look, said, "You can't be serious, Lord Shijimi. Where will you go for hired help when you need shinobi to assist you in delicate matters or retrieval missions?" He ignored her and met Tsunade's weary eyes, realizing that they both knew the same things about the village. The daimyo smirked slightly as he said, "There are other villages that I can hire. I hear Amegakure is becoming quite the village now under the leadership of its current Amikage, the Angel of the Rain. I heard her name was Konan. And Suna, for example. They seem to have a powerful Kazekage that was like Naruto only, unlike here. They love him and are honored to have him as their Kazekage." Even though he was just as exhausted as Tsunade and the other clan heads, Shizaki decided to make a statement. "What must we do to regain your favor, Lord Shijimi? Surely there is something we can do to appease you, and show that we still have the will of fire that the first Hokage passed down to the future generations." He looked up at the group around him, anxious to see what they could do, and said, "You have little you can do to regain my favor once more, Shizaki, but I am inclined to consider this one option though, if the council all agree to this. Then I'm afraid that the village will never receive work from me, again." Tsunade questioned, "What do you propose, Lord Shijimi?" She was curious about the man's plan to possibly save herself from eternal damnation. "It's not as though they were likely going that way anyhow," the daimyo declared. "Agree to these terms and I will not pull funding from Konoha. First, I want the entire story behind the Kyuubi's attack on Konoha with the Fox's connection to the Uchiha clan. Second, the reason behind Itachi murdering his entire clan. And the final condition is to the fourth Hokage's dying wish to become revealed, since it's clear you didn't let that become public knowledge at all." Many of the council members were shocked and extremely uneasy at the declaration. Lord Shijimi, please, you must reconsider such a request. If the public found out about the Uchiha clan, then he will try to take his revenge on us. Gesturing his Sharingan fiercely behind Tsunade, Sasuke growled, "I already know, thank you very much. And believe me, it's taking all of my self-control not to slaughter every single last one of you." The council members recoiled in fear. Not only that, But the public will find it to be our fault for the fourth Hokage's dying wish not being fulfilled, Homura added. Placing his hands on the table, the daimyo asked, expecting an answer, would you prefer if I told them? When I first explained my terms, you all seemed very surprised that I knew about it. Why do you suppose that is? Tsunade glanced up at the Akatsuki cloud adorned on his robe. Tsunade remarked, drawing glares from a few council members, because we didn't know that you knew the truth. Correct. Meaning that even after I arrived here, you all planned to keep me in the dark about your past actions, and knew that if I became aware of them it would tarnish our relationship. Now I believe it's time I share with you all the reason pertaining the Akatsuki cloud adorned on my robes and my samurai, said the daimyo while pointing to the red storm. I have become good friends with the Akatsuki, and so have all the other daimyos as well. They've brought good money to them, and even with the recent destruction of Kirigakure, the Water Daimyo and the Akatsuki have made a deal to rebuild the village with its former 5th Mizukage Mei Terumi as its leader once again. And another thing, the person I received this information from was none other than the Yokage himself, a certain Akatsuki leader named Akuma. You all know his real name, don't you? Or will you lie to me again and tell me you don't? He said with a scowl. Lord Sijimi slammed his palm down on the table, cracking its surface, and yelled, silence. Now, can any of you explain as to how the appearance and sealing of the Kyuubi not fall under this law, or should I just start punishing people? The daimyo asked, leaving the council members speechless. Under laws set by the first Hokage, Section 14 Subsection 3, Paragraph 12, all events that occur within a village must be reported to the current Hokage by the current Hokage, and if anyone or anything prevents him, her from doing so must be punished accordingly by the Fire Daimyo himself. The Fire Daimyo got back to his feet, crossing his arms and narrowing his eyes. He declared, Sasuke and Tsunade grinning at the shocked expressions on the council members' faces, very well. I hereby order the Sharingan Dojutsu to be sealed away and never be passed down into his lineage until further orders. The daimyo pulled out his sword, pointing its edge at the council, and the council erupted in protest, but Sasuke said, I agree to that. While Lord Shijimi rested his hands like a cane on the tip of his sword and laid it on the ground, Tsunade thought, now there's a punishment I can get behind. The gaunt councilman exclaimed, we need the revival of the Uchiha clan, and begged the Fire Daimyo to try and persuade him otherwise. Knowing that Sasuke could aid the group if the man using his Sharingan to control the Kyuubi could, Kaharu added, those eyes can help us when the demon comes and threatens to destroy us. Homura, your word choice really conveys a lot. It appears that my suspicion that Konoha has experienced a wolf fire extinction is accurate, and I should search elsewhere for a capable hidden village. Tsunade sighed and leaned back in her chair as the Fire Daimyo remarked, a megacure is sounding better and better, before turning and leaving with his bodyguards, much to the council's chagrin. All hope appeared to be lost. Amegacure's pains tower. Now that night had descended upon Amegacure. The clouds had not brought darkness but rather a starry sky full of sparkling stars and a full moon that illuminated the village with a soft glow. Akayuri was lying back on her luscious bed, about to nod off when she heard something faint above her. It sounded like he was coming from Naruto's office, but she assumed that everyone had gone to sleep by now. After waiting, she heard the noise once more. This late in the evening, what could Naruto be up to? As she got out of bed, wearing only a plain white shirt and her coincidentally purple underwear, she wondered. She slipped from the bed and sauntered out into the hallway, her steps as quiet as a cat's, pausing as she got close to the stairs to inhale deeply and avoid inhaling the thick smoke rising from beneath Suzaku's room's door. Does he even smoke at night? What is the deal with cigars and that guy? Akayuri thought to herself as she arrived at the stairs. She let out a breath and then stealthily ascended the metal steps until she reached the next floor, where she appeared to be in an empty room. The door to Naruto's office room was slightly ajar when she raised her hand to the blank wall and applied a wave of chakra to the metal. Only she, Kakashi, Suzaku, and Konan have the right to call him by his former name. Everyone else calls him by his new name, Akuma. She peered into the darkness and saw the wall stretching open to form a hole that led into the pod room that once held her. Wait a minute, this is Naruto's private office, she said to herself as she started to approach it. We can only go inside if he gives us permission. This isn't where I should be. Her curiosity overcame her, though, and she kept walking slowly and silently toward Naruto's office until she arrived at the door and glanced inside. After a brief moment of exploring, she saw Naruto sitting on the rail, adorned wall off the extending balcony, staring up at the village's full moon. After her curiosity was satiated, she turned to leave and head back to her room before hearing his voice. "I'm all right if that's what you're wondering, Akiyuri." She turned around and fully opened the door, still observing Naruto staring up at the moon, thinking to herself, "Damn, he's good." "It's okay, you can come up here," Naruto said, and Akiyuri approached him carefully before sitting on the wall beside him with her legs hanging over the edge. She glanced down and saw that some of the villagers were still strolling through the streets of the quiet village, and in that brief instant, Akiyuri knew that this was exactly how Nagato must have felt as he looked out over the village. "Akiyuri, I have a message for you." Akiyuri turned to face Naruto, who asked without taking his eyes off the moon, grinning a little. "Sure. I would like to express my gratitude for having supported me during this entire ordeal. Although I am aware that destroying Konoha is not the recommended course, I still wish to bring about the world's peace as I promised Nagato, and, I suppose, you as well, given that you were once his Asura path." Naruto laughed and lowered his gaze as Akiyuri smirked and punched him in the arm. "Ah, don't get soft on me." Before closing his eyes and taking a deep breath, Naruto said, "I'm not. It's just that, I said thank you, but I can't really mean it unless I do something that I've wanted to for a long time. I want to show you my memories, I want to show you what I went through and how you and Nagato were able to set my life on a better path, one away from that blasted village." Naruto replied. Really?" Akiyuri inquired, and Naruto nodded while grinning a little. "Yes, I only share my memories, in fact, my whole life, with people I can genuinely trust." Naruto said to Akiyuri, "I'm telling you because not only do I trust you, but I know I can trust you with my life and that you won't let me fall." He opened his hand and motioned for Akiyuri to put her hand in his. Her hand moved slowly into his, and he took it gently, sending his memories into Akiyuri as if they were a calm, steady river that ran through her. Naruto showed Akiyuri the 20 years of his life in the brief moments that they spent holding hands in this manner. He was so strong that it caused her to cry a little out of shock and sadness. "Wow. I never would have guessed," stammered Akiyuri as she wiped away the tears. Naruto laughed again as he looked at her, and Akiyuri's eyes widened as he realized that, for the first time, his eyes had changed. They were once again cerulean blue, but now they were filled with kindness and care instead of rage, bloodlust, or anger. "Please, save my memories for me." Naruto tightened his hold on her hand, saying, "They are my entire life." Akiyuri grinned and nodded. Akiyuri approached Naruto a little closer and said, "You know, there's something I want to tell you. Something I've been wanting to do for a while now." "And just what is that?" asked Naruto, grinning slightly and raising an eyebrow slightly. "There's just something so amazing about watching you battle and destroy everything in your path." With a snicker from Naruto, Akiyuri said, "You and I, how we tore down Anbu after Anbu in the Shi facility was truly beautiful. The way it looked like no trouble at all, how it looked like a dance of death that brought horror to them, but beauty to me." She grinned in response to Naruto's playful jab, "You are one sadistic little girl, aren't you?" Akiyuri leaned forward and kissed the Demon Lord, saying, "And so are you, my Demon Lord." Their lips met, lit by the moon's gentle glow. Akiyuri crept over until she did the same and leaned up against his chest, their hands now intertwined, while Naruto leaned against the building's side and he swung one leg over to hang on the other side of the wall towards the office. Naruto eventually noticed the shirt she was wearing as they sat there and gazed at the stars. "This isn't the shirt I gave you, is it, when you visited my apartment that evening following Nagato's attack?" Akiyuri grinned and looked down at the fabric, asking Naruto. "The shirt is the same." This time, Akiyuri was the one to take a punch to the arm. "At first, I just kept it for when I sleep, but now I keep it because it reminds me of you," she said. Naruto grinned and said, "Now don't you become soft either." Akiyuri laughed and stroked her arm. Naruto glanced down and saw that she was missing her bra beneath the shirt. He kept staring at her breasts until she turned to face him, at which point he quickly looked away and his cheeks flushed. "Are you scared I'll bite you?" Naruto blushed a deeper shade of red as Akiyuri clasped both of his hands, saying, "I think you've been denied that right long enough." Pearl Square. After the Demon Lord had destroyed much of Konoha, the people gathered in the village square saw the Fire Daimyo's unusual appearance as a treat and a source of inspiration. A significant portion of the Fire Daimyo's entourage was with him, and another was close by in case crowd control arose. People of Konoha, as the fire daimyo of this great country, I have served you well in funding your village with what it needs to survive, and providing missions to you while putting my reputation on the line by saying I trust Konoha. However, it has come to my attention that some very disturbing information given to me has made my trust of this village become broken, the fire daimyo proclaimed, causing a few of the villagers to display anxious and worried looks. Homura and the other council members, who had pleaded and begged the daimyo to rethink his decision, thought bitterly, and here comes yet another blow to the village. All they got was a glare telling them to shut up. Why is my faith in Konoha broken, you may wonder. I'll tell you why it is, since it's so simple. When the Kyuubi attacked your village, the fourth Hokage sealed the Biju inside a baby boy that had just been born on that fateful night. When the beast attempted to kill his future vessel, he and his wife gave the ultimate sacrifice to protect the boy, who was in fact, their son. Said the fire daimyo, taking a moment to let the take hold. With great sorrow, I have learned that you have not honored the late fourth Hokage's dying wish. In fact, it is the exact opposite of what he wanted, and you all are guilty of such sinful acts against the boy-turned-demon lord. The fire daimyo said, seeing the villagers pale at his words as they realized that their country's leader now knew how they treated Naruto. His dying wish was that the denizens of Konoha see the boy not as a freak, but as a hero for what he contained. A villager shouted, he's still a demon. He proved it when he attacked the village, and received a few nods and applause before the daimyo's strong hand silenced him. With a small smirk at how some of the villagers turned their backs on them, unwilling to accept that they were mistaken, the fire daimyo exclaimed, attacked in retaliation after what you people did to him when he was younger, and from what I understand you even blamed him for the deaths of people that died long before the First Shinobi World War. Tsunade, enjoying watching the council begin to perspire a little, all of them dreading this moment, said, Lord Shijimi, would you please tell them the truth being the Uchiha clan massacre now, as they still need to know what the council has been keeping from them. The fire daimyo gestured to Sasuke, who was standing next to Tsunade. Ah yes, thank you Lady Hokage for reminding me. Another reason I called this public meeting is to tell you that the true reason behind that one infamous night concerning a certain Itachi Uchiha, the brother of Sasuke Uchiha, who is present at this moment. He had recently joined the Anbu after the incident at the Shi facility, and he is dressed in full as an Anbu operative for this meeting, complete with flak jacket. His porcelain mask of a dog with a hawk and purple markings was pulled up and to the side. However, the weapon he carried on his back was not his sword but rather a Uchiha Ganbai, akin to the one used by Madara Uchiha in the past. The reason as to why Itachi killed his kin was not for power, it was for a completely different reason. It turns out that the Uchiha clan was in fact not so noble. They planned to enact a coup d'état and take control of the village. Itachi was the only one who did not agree with this plan and became the third Hokage's spy in the clan. He made the decision to kill his entire clan and spare his brother, become the villain and join Akatsuki as a deep-cover spy to prevent the Uchiha clan from overthrowing the third Hokage. The daimyo disclosed the news to the crowd, claiming that the Uchiha clan would never that he was deceiving them. The Uchiha clan would never do something like that, it was probably the demon's fault. The crowd fell silent and their protest came to an abrupt halt when the fire daimyo asked, you mean the same demon that was summoned by a member of the Uchiha clan? Tsunade said to herself, that shut them up. Yes, the one who called for the Kyuubi to attack the village was a Uchiha named Obito Uchiha, who was declared dead in action during the Third Shinobi World War but had actually allied himself with the notorious Madara Uchiha. He was the leader of the Akatsuki before Akuma took his place, and you should know who he is, the fire daimyo said, casting a sidelong glance at the council and observing them shake their heads in disagreement without revealing his identity. The Akatsuki leader and Yokage is none other than the very demon you despise and hated. Naruto Uzumaki. That is why I have allied myself with the Akatsuki, because Konoha needs to be taught a lesson. Personally, I'm glad Naruto is coming here to kill you all for your sins, for I have decided to let him do just that, and not even lift a finger to stop him. The fire daimyo responded by causing the crowd to immediate fear. Save us! The villagers yelled, you can't do this, we're your people, and begged the man to spare them from ruin. Why should I help you? You didn't honor the fourth Hokage's dying wish and brought this upon yourselves. You rejected and neglected the one who has poured everything into protecting this village, and for that you must pay. I hereby wipe my hands clean of you and declare you all to be on your own. Any trade contracts you have signed will be omitted and you will be left alone to rot until Naruto arrives. I also declare that effective immediately, Sasuke Uchiha will have his Sharingan sealed off and never be used again or passed down to any offspring until I say so. Decreed the fire daimyo prior to telling the screaming crowd to leave. As Gaara landed on the stage atop a cloud of sand, Konan, and the recently appointed 4th Tsuchikage, Onoki's granddaughter Kuretsuchi, who had quickly matured from her previous self, said, I wish to respectfully ask you to remove that last stipulation regarding Sasuke Uchiha, Lord Shijimi. The Akatsuki cloud on the fire daimyo's uniforms caused the guards to relax. Only Konan, a full member, wore the cloak. The fire daimyo bowed and said, Lord Kazekage, Lord Raikage, Lady Amikage, and Lady Tsuchikage, a pleasure to meet you all. With his arms crossed and his gaze fixed on the man, Gaara questioned, May I ask, why are you all here? There were several gasps from the villagers as Gaara spoke. I ask you on behalf of the demon lord Akuma for something. The fire daimyo arched an eyebrow. Konan pointed at Sasuke with her index finger and said, Of course, what has he asked? The people were beginning to panic at the thought of Naruto arriving to kill them, so she stated coldly, he wishes to fight Sasuke Uchiha to the death and kill him before he enacts his revenge on everyone assembled here today. With Sasuke's eyes burning red and his ganbai clenched, the fire daimyo said, I see. Very well. Akuma will have his chance to kill the Uchiha and all those he deems guilty. The fire daimyo and the cage took their respective leaves, disregarding the cries and pleas of the villagers, as Sasuke let go of the handle and watched as a growled, Don't even try kid, as his lightning armor formed. You all brought this upon yourselves. You chose to follow a council filled with self-righteous old assholes that are past their time and only think about themselves over the 4th Hokage, who if I remember saved you all from certain doom. Now we are all going to pay because of you, and I won't raise a single finger to try and stop it. This has been coming to us for a while now and it's finally arrived. Enjoy your lives for the few hours we have left. Tsunade screamed as she left to go workplace and endure the final moments of her existence. With heavy hearts, Sasuke departed along with Konoha 11, Sakura, and the other Jonin. The villagers were terrified and thought they might be able to evade the demon lord's wrath, but she ultimately realized that they would all perish as a result of their transgressions against Naruto. When she eventually made it back to her office, she sighed deeply and took a seat. She stayed there for a few minutes before turning to face the windows and enjoying the gorgeous day and the clear sky above. A megacure. Because he wasn't a true Uchiha, Kakashi's Sharingan eyes never went away as he flipped a kunai in his hand. Though clouds of smoke constantly billowed out from beneath Suzaku's room, Kakashi wondered to himself, I wonder Obito. Can you still see what I see today through these eyes? As he strolled down one of Pain's Tower's many long hallways. Pain's Tower was a place he had come to love. The cigar chewer said, Kakashi, there you are. Naruto's having a meeting. Kakashi turned and nodded, then followed the man up the stairs. They arrived at Naruto's office last, with Konan using the magic body lantern technique to present herself. She had promised to wait for them at a specific location during their journey to Konoha. He saw that Akayuri appeared more carefree than normal and that she was standing considerably closer to Naruto. When Naruto started talking, the ideas left his head. Akuma spoke, the day has arrived, my friends, the day of reckoning for Konoha. Kakashi, I'm asking you if you would like to stay here while we head to Konoha, considering you love the village. Kakashi's eyes hardened as his emotions were swept away. As his Sharingan transformed into their Mangekyo Sharingan form, he exclaimed, I don't care anymore about the village that treated my sensei's son like crap. Let's get going already. With a laugh, Akuma looked at the others. Very well, let us go then. Konoha burns today. Konoha Hospital, Konohagakure, Room 13. Despite Yamato's objections that he didn't want to live, Tsunade was eventually able to remove the crucifix from him and heal him. She had set up multiple Anbu to monitor him in case he attempted suicide. She even made sure that restraints were available in the room in case he attempted it at least once. Yamato said to one of the Anbu in the room wearing a cat mask, she shouldn't have saved me, you know. It was such a waste of time when she should be preparing for the destruction of this village. The Anbu said, you shouldn't talk like that, Yamato. Once Tsunade gets you back on your feet, we know you can use your wood release needed to stop the demon like the first Hokage did all those years ago. To which Yamato responded with an insincere laugh, as if it were a bad joke. Yamato said, sensing the shock that spread among the Anbu in the room at his little declaration, "You don't get it, do you? Even when Tsunade fixes me up, I'm not going to fight Naruto at all, and I'm not going to help in his attempted murder, though it should be entertaining to watch him kick the shit out of everyone." Another Anbu wearing an ape mask questioned, "But why Yamato?" sharing the same curiosity as the others as to why the man would just let the village perish. As the Anbu had not exactly been kind to him when he was a child, Yamato said, "Damn, you Anbu are idiots. I mean, why should I even defend, much less give my life for a village that treats the fourth Hokage's son like shit?" Observing the Anbu stiffen at the remark. The cat masked Anbu asked, "Surely the village will redeem itself once the demon lord is stopped?" Yamato laughed again and then shook his head in embarrassment. Yamato sighed and looked up at the ceiling to count the tiles, which he had found to be quite entertaining. "The village will redeem itself? Pal, you're talking about a village that practically ganged up on Naruto when he was just a kid without a family, beat the shit out of him, and then when he was banished for good went on to celebrate. Who knows, maybe he had lost his mind. Tsunade's office, Hokage Tower. Since he was friends with Naruto's son Shikamaru, Shikaku wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea of fighting him. Are you sure you want my help with this, Tsunade?" he asked. Tsunade, shivering at the memory of their encounter in this very office, which still haunts her, answered, "Yes. Naruto has become a master at analyzing his enemies and figuring out the most efficient way to tear them down both physically and mentally." Tsunade put her elbows on the desk, saw Nara frown, and said, "I need you to prepare a strategy that will subdue Naruto so he does not destroy Konoha." Shikaku asked, "Can I ask you a question, Tsunade? Why are you siding with the village that hates Naruto?" Tsunade lowered her gaze and let out a deep sigh. Shikaku nodded to Tsunade, understanding, but his face again showed discomfort at the thought of fighting his son's friend. "Because I'm the Hokage, and ironically enough, I was inspired to become Hokage by the very person who wants to destroy the village he once wanted to become its Hokage himself. I can't just let the village die since it's a part of my grandfather's legacy," Tsunade explained, seeing Shikaku nod in agreement. He got up from his chair and left the office, walking past Shizune as she entered. "I'll see what I can do, but I can't guarantee the others are going to like it," he said. "You're not alone," she thought to herself as Shizune walked up to her, her expression worried. Tsunade sighed once more as she continued, "I spoke with Yamato again and he's not going to fight Naruto or help with his wood release in binding him." Looking down on the village, Tsunade said, "His heart's not in this anymore, and I imagine several others that were once Naruto's friends are experiencing the same ordeal. The villagers were depressed because of what the Fire Daimyo had told them, and they were gradually ruining the happy lives they had made for themselves by using Naruto as a punching bag. Now, though, that retaliation will come in the form of teeth and claws. Is it really their fault that they don't want to battle Naruto? The village treated him like a demon. And then you with Kushina?" Shizune uttered. But Tsunade cut him down with an evil glare, signaling that he should stop speaking if he wanted to survive. Tsunade apologized to her student. "I really am sorry, Shizune, but Naruto needs to grow up and let go of his pain like we all learned to do." However, she was met with an angry look from her pupil. "Tsunade, you're such a hypocrite, constantly considering what others ought to think, even though you know deep down that's not how the world functions. I seem to recall that during the war, you lost both my Uncle Dan and your younger brother. Since you never let go of the past, you haven't even complied with the advice you're saying Naruto should heed now. It makes sense why he wants to set this place on fire." Shizune cried out as she stormed out of the office, leaving Tsunade sitting there in shock with her mouth slightly open. "I hate my life," a short distance from Konohagakure. Kurama saw this, smirking slightly at how much he had changed from the wimp he had known since he was first sealed in him, and Akuma led the Akatsuki through the trees towards their destination, his rage driving him forward. "Akuma, who are you going to murder first?" asked Ketsueki, who was feeling particularly lustful for blood and eager for Isobu to lose control. "A specific Uchiha attempted to murder me at the Shi establishment. It's time to finish what I started," declared Akuma as he quickened his pace, with Akiyuri at his side and the others right behind. The prophecy Hagoromo told him was like a parasite inside his head, causing constant trouble. He thought to himself, "Choose between my love, or my hate. I guess we shall decide which one it is when this is all over," as he shot to the left and the Akatsuki members followed him to land on a dirt road. Now that they were here, the Konohagakure gate stood before them. Akuma did not even try to disguise his appearance as he walked towards the gate, grinning as his mask took shape. Konoha needed to pay off their debts in full. Panic flashed as Akuma and the rest of the Akatsuki arrived, their cloaks frightening anyone who got in their way, forcing them to move aside. Though a Jonin at the gate had hurried to let everyone know they were arriving, Akuma ignored such things and strolled through the village unafraid. He was making his way to the arena where he had defeated Neji in the final exam of the Chunin exams when he was younger. But as soon as he entered the village square, an army of Anbu surrounded them, along with some of the Rookie 11 and Ino and Choji, who were standing among them and wearing expressions that suggested they were forced to fight even though they didn't want to. With Shikamaru's eyes lowered to the voice of the Akatsuki leader, Akuma questioned, "So? I see you guys are siding with the village to me, the evil demon lord?" Shikamaru spoke up, saying, "Not all of us, Naruto. I find this really troublesome just standing here since most of us do not want to fight you. We're all here on orders from Tsunade to stop you from destroying the very village her grandfather founded years ago." Not only did he not want to fight his friend, but he also didn't think that Ino and Choji shared his sentiments. As the Anbu turned their swords toward the Akatsuki and Kakashi assessed the odds, Choji uttered the words, "I hate to say this but, Naruto, we can't let you pass." Yahiko grinned and said, "Sorry, but we have an important date to get to with a certain Uchiha." The three rookies shivered at his likeness to Kakuzu, the member who nearly killed them. As Akuma enveloped the Akatsuki in a column of fire and disappeared in front of the shinobi army, he said, "If you'll excuse us, I have to kill Uchiha." Ino sighed and turned to walk towards the arena with the others, saying, "Leave it to Naruto to have something like that up his sleeve." As everyone else watched the fight from the stands, Uruka and Tsunade announced to each other, "He's here." They were standing in the press box of the arena. With his eyes closed and his arms crossed, Sasuke stood in the middle of the arena, lost in contemplation. Sasuke was thinking, "I can't believe I'm fighting for the sake of the village. God, this is stressful. I don't want to fight Naruto," when 10 figures emerged from the engulfing column of red fire that had burst from the ground behind him. After parting his hand and sweeping it through the fire, Akuma entered the arena. The audience fell silent as the rest of the Akatsuki followed suit. With a devilish smirk, Akuma said, "Now will you look at that? Everyone in the entire village has gathered to watch me kill Sasuke Uchiha. How quaint." His mask vanished, and his eyes chilled the assembled crowd. Sakura, like the other rookies in the throng of villagers, Genma, Kurenai, Gai, Shibi, Choza, Murakumo, Shikaku, and Inoichi, observed with concerned eyes. Sasuke gripped his Ganbai and swung it around to point it at Akuma, saying, "I'm not going to let you win again, Naruto. This is where it stops, this useless fight." Akuma chuckled as he reshaped his shikuho and pointed its sharpened end at Sasuke, saying, "Kihihi. You never learn, Sasuke. I'll make short work of this so I can kill everyone here quickly." Tsunade said, "This is it," as Sasuke made a series of hand gestures and inhaled deeply. "Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu," exclaimed Sasuke, launching a massive fireball at Akuma, who merely grinned while transforming his chakra into 9 flowing tails. As he knelt on all fours, the tails struck the fireball and started to drill into it, causing it to split apart and burst into a whirlwind of smoke and fire. Activating his Sharingan, Sasuke looked through the smoke to find Naruto's chakra. His eyes snapped to the right, and he shielded himself from Naruto's kick by raising his Ganbai, even though the force of it knocked him back. "Naruto. Fuck calling him Akuma, too hard to try and do that," yelled. "That Ganbai is pretty tough, though like every bone in your body, it will break," as he threw his arm back and formed a crimson Rasengan that kept growing. "Odama Rasengan," he exclaimed, throwing himself forward and extending his arm, illuminating Sasuke's shocked expression with the enormous crimson glow of the Rasengan before drawing up the Ganbai to shield him. Not only did it do the exact opposite, but it also broke in half, propelling Sasuke backward and causing him to collide with an arena wall in a cloud of dust. Naruto grinned, his rage beginning to spiral out of control as his chakra began to spread throughout his body. His smile disappeared when he saw Sasuke get up off the ground, his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan blazing from his eyes and half of his Susanoo rib cage surrounding the right side of his body. He rushed at Naruto, who gave Sasuke a menacing smile as he withdrew his Shukuho and swung it at him, sending a wave of chakra flying like a blade. Sasuke dove around the attack, completing the remaining parts of his incomplete Susanoo, and then launched himself into the air. He yelled, "Amaterasu," as a cloud of black fire shot toward Naruto, blood streaming from his right eye. When he jumped back from the attack, a shadow appeared over him, and then Sasuke's Susanoo struck him with its fists, leaving a huge crater and a cloud of smoke in its wake. The stadium was silent until Naruto's voice broke through their eardrums. 6 tails. With his chakra bones already formed on his version 2 six-tailed state, Naruto's chakra exploded from beneath Susanoo's fists, and he slowly pushed them back up with his brute strength. With a backflip of his head and a toss of Sasuke, he created a small Biju Dama. Sasuke thought as he yelled, his Susanoo forming into its perfect form, its yellow eyes peering out from its armor that looked like a crow. Oh shit, if he launched that in here, the explosion could kill some of the villagers. Biju Dama! Exclaimed Naruto as he threw the ball at Sasuke, who raised his arms in a Susanoo as the ball struck them and burst. The audience let out a scream as the blast tore through them, sending the arena trembling. When Sasuke's Susanoo lowered its partially broken arms and then quickly straightened them, Naruto growled. As his Susanoo formed a sword and a ball of Amaterasu in its 2 right arms, Sasuke yelled, "Naruto, I'm tired of this fighting. You can still stop what you're doing and attain peace without destroying Konoha." As Naruto shone and grew larger, his chakra bones phasing through the chakra and forming a skeleton inside the chakra, Naruto roared, "Sasuke! You think you can change my mind? Try saying that again and see if I'll listen, because as far as I'm concerned, I don't care." Naruto stood inside the head. Naruto swatted at Sasuke, his Susanoo blocking the blow with his sword and jumping back to form his legs and lower half. "Oh shish! This is getting out of hand," cried Guy. Naruto bellowed, "Bring it on, Uchiha," as he used his tails to propel himself forward and struck Sasuke's Susanoo with his fist, shattering the armor and sending him flying backward. "Yasaka Magatama!" cried Sasuke, before his Susanoo formed a ring of Magatama from Amaterasu's black flames and threw it at Naruto. After using 3 of his tails to swat the Magatama to the side and disconnect the chakra section that had captured some of the black flames, Naruto laughed and said, "Nice try." Naruto appeared behind Sasuke in a flash of red, grabbing his Susanoo by its arms and legs to stop it from moving with his tails. Tsunade was terrified as she saw Naruto roar and sink his teeth into Susanoo's neck, beginning to control and subjugate Susanoo with his chakra. With his Shikuho still in hand and a cloud of his own chakra shielding him from Sasuke's evil chakra, Naruto disguising himself as Susanoo and advancing towards Sasuke grinned menacingly. "Amaterasu! Entenka!" exclaimed Sasuke, who was shielded from Naruto by black fire that surrounded him like a chain link fence. "You think you can stop me with that little fire? Huh? Try this on for size. Kaijiten! Pointo Baranku Zetsumetsu!" exclaimed Naruto, as Susanoo burst into a ball of fire and a bright light emerged from it. Sasuke cried out as he was flung back, fell to the ground, and stopped, clutching his burned left arm. He stood up, thinking painfully, "Fuck, I can't feel my left arm anymore." Naruto approached him as his 7-tailed version 2 form phased back into his body. Naruto whirled his Shikuho and said, "Any last words before I kill you?" Sasuke took out a small scroll from his flak jacket and began to unravel it. Sasuke stood up and pressed his hand against the scroll, saying, "Yeah, I do." A seal appeared in front of him in a puff of smoke, and as he held his sword, lightning began to pierce through his body and into the weapon. With an evil smile that unnerved Sasuke, Naruto sneered at the sword as if it were a toothpick and proceeded to walk towards him. Sasuke yelled, "Naruto! Please, give up this worthless bout for revenge," as he raced to catch up with Naruto. Naruto blocked Sasuke's lightning enhanced sword with his Shikuho. Naruto sneered as he threw back Sasuke and slashed his Shikuho across his chest, cutting deep into his skin. "It's too late for that, Uchiha. Once I kill you, this village will burn for what it's done to me." Sasuke staggered backward, a trail of blood appearing through his flak jacket as he moved away from Naruto. "Oh no, I'm sorry, Naruto. Damn it, I have no choice." Sasuke glared at Naruto, whose eyes widened as his own began to slowly spin. "Tsukuyomi. Happy that the genjutsu was one thing that worked on Naruto, Sasuke exhaled as he walked up to the entrapped Naruto. Naruto's body stiffened as the Tsukuyomi took control, his eyes growing distant and foggy. As she dabbed at her perspiration, Tsunade exclaimed, "He did it." She then noticed that the members of Akatsuki had not even bothered to stop him. Why are they not even moving? She questioned as Sasuke drew closer to Naruto, his sword grip tightening as he wiped some blood from his lip. Sasuke turned his arm back and swung his blade at Naruto's neck, saying, "Naruto, your road of revenge ends here." The lightning flickered and zapped off the metal. A loud snap was heard as Naruto's hand grabbed Sasuke's wrist and twisted his arm around his back, causing the crowd to fall silent. Sasuke's eyes widened in shock as he saw the hand block the sword and break it into small pieces. Sasuke let out a painful cry as Naruto threw him forward with the force of a bullet, sending Sasuke crashing into another wall of the arena. Naruto then hurled his Shikuho into the dust cloud that covered him. A few seconds later, another scream of agony pierced the atmosphere. With a sly grin, Naruto crossed his arms and waited for the dust cloud to disperse along with the throng, while Tsunade waited impatiently for it to do the same. It vanished, and Tsunade, along with the rest of the audience, gasped when she saw Sasuke pinned against the arena wall, his Shikuho jammed through his left shoulder, blood trickling down his flak jacket and creating a sizable puddle on the floor. Because the Shikuho is composed of the same material as Naruto's chakra receptors, it was agitating his chakra to the point where Sasuke's body was shaking so much that he was unable to remove the staff from his shoulder. With a quick flick of his thumb, Naruto pulled the Shikuho from Sasuke's shoulder and returned it to him, causing him to fall to his knees. Naruto stepped up to the fallen Uchiha and sank his Shikuho into the ground, saying, "I'm not done with you yet." Naruto bowed down to pick up Sasuke and remarked, "Well, isn't this ironic? At the Valley of the End, you stood over me when I was defeated. And now, the roles have switched." "It's not over yet," Sasuke remarked, causing Naruto to pause and chuckle. Sasuke leapt up at Naruto, his hand covered in blue, chirping lightning, and said, "Oh really? Well, we'll just have to see about that." Blood was streaming from Naruto's lip as a smirk spread across his face. Sasuke had once again driven his Chidori through his whole body. Kurenai said, "It has to be over now," and Guy exhaled a breath of relief. Sakura said to herself as the two stood there for the third time, "Naruto." When Naruto said, "Kihihi," the throng, which had started to disperse after Sasuke was said to have killed the demon, halted and turned around in terror. Naruto laughed as his blood sizzled away and his wound around Sasuke's arm began to heal. "Jihihahaha. You think some pitiful Chidori can kill me? Sasuke, you've forgotten. I'm a Biju. I can't be killed." Kiba stammered, "Please tell me you guys heard that too." Nodding slowly, the other rookies and Jonin followed. "And now it's time you die, Uchiha," Naruto growled, pushing Sasuke off his arm and using his right hand to form a red Rasengan. "Go join the rest of your clan," Naruto exclaimed, slicing blood from Sasuke's mouth and ramming the Rasengan into his stomach. The audience gasped in shock as Naruto's hand suddenly protruded from his back, splattering blood all over the wall behind him. Naruto was giggling maniacally at the Uchiha's untimely demise. With Homura and Kaharu rising from their seats in disbelief, Naruto withdrew his hand from his stomach and retreated from Sasuke's corpse. Sakura was sitting in her chair, stunned and terrified at the sight of Sasuke's corpse, his eyes lifeless, his skin already cold. Homura pointed a finger at Naruto, who looked up at him and beckoned them all to come take his head. "All shinobi loyal to this village, kill the demon and avenge the Uchiha clan," Homura exclaimed. Naruto laughed as Anbu fell from the stands and into the arena with their swords drawn. "Go ahead and try to kill me. Your precious Uchiha failed, so let's see if you can," cried Naruto. With the intention of fighting to the death for their leader, Akayuri and the Akatsuki surrounded Naruto. Suzaku said, "I hope you haven't gone insane with bloodlust, boss." Naruto grinned and licked his fingers' blood. As a council member got up from his seat and gestured toward Tsunade, Naruto remarked, "Well, maybe just a little." He exclaimed, "Tsunade can fight the demon. You are a Sannin and have the power to defeat him." Tsunade shot a quick glance down at them before turning to face Naruto, who was staring up at her with a raised eyebrow and an expression that said it was time to follow your own intuition rather than following others' advice. "No, Tsunade, Homura, Kaharu, and the council all expressed surprise at her refusal, as did the audience members sitting below her. They wondered why she was saying no. Enraged by Tsunade's defiance of the council's explicit directive, Kaharu exclaimed, "No? Why?" Just before Tsunade got up from her chair and took off her Hokage hat and robes, laying them on the floor. "It is not possible for me to fight against a man who is attacking a village that I do not believe warrants defense, and who has lost the will of fire that motivated my grandfather to found Konoha," Tsunade uttered before she spun around and witnessed Yamato emerge from the press box, hobbling on a crutch after leaving the hospital. Shizune accompanied Yamato to the arena, grinning at her for acting honorably. She had allowed things to get out of control, allowed the councils to act as they pleased, and allowed people to injure the fourth Hokage's son for far too long. Naruto had literally beaten her senseless about what had happened to her grandfather's village, teaching her the value of compassion and making her realize that she had caused his mother's death many years before when she had brought him into the world. When Yamato had predicted that Naruto would see to it that everyone paid for their misdeeds, he had been correct. Konoha's debts were settled in full on this day. Homura became enraged and exclaimed, "To hell with the first Hokages! Will of Fire, we the council order you and the clan heads to go down there to kill the demon now." The fight that was about to start was cut short when a demon chakra explosion shot out of the stadium, silencing both of them. With his arms folded, Naruto turned to face the council, the villagers, and the shinobi who were staring down at him in utter terror at what he intended to do. Naruto had said, "Now that I have your full undivided attention once more, I'm going to explain something to you all before I send you all into the lowest depths of hell, and that is when you get there, no matter how hard and loud you scream. You're there for eternity." Then, as he used the only jutsu he had that needed hand signs, flashes of fear filled the crowd. "I suppose this is it," Yamato remarked as he approached Naruto, who was standing next to Tsunade. Tsunade gave him a soft smile and let out a sigh. As Iruka looked down on Tsunade and shook hands with Yamato, she said, "See you on the other side." He grinned broadly and said, "I'll bring the sake." Kiba patted his dog Akamaru on the head, perhaps for the last time, and said, "Wow. It's really come to this. The end of Konoha." Choji said, "Yeah, it was great fighting with you guys." His father then got up and gave his son an embrace, and Shikaku, Inoichi, and Shibi did the same for their kids. With a somber embrace from Inoichi, Ino cried, "I love you, Dad. I guess I'll see you guys in the afterlife," Shino remarked as Hinata smiled happily rather than with resentment or sadness as she peered down at Naruto. She said to herself, "Naruto, I hope you live a wonderful life. We'll all miss you," just before Naruto touched the last seal. With his hands clasped together, a small purple orb formed in between his palms as he slowly opened them, sending red chakra lancing out from them. Kaharu yelled, "Stop him," as the Anbu in the arena raced to confront Naruto and the Akatsuki. Meanwhile, Naruto let go of the orb and a brilliant light burst forth from it, bathing the entire village in a gradient of light. Ichi Hyaku Shiru no Jutsu. Kaijiten. Jaku Suru Paji. Tsunade closed her eyes, welcoming her fate with open arms as the orb shattered and a screeching sound was heard as the light thickened. Anybody inside the white light would be instantly killed. Konoha's day of judgment has come. Tsunade slowly opened her eyes as the white light faded, expecting to see the flaming domain of hell, but all she saw was the arena. Looking around, she saw that Kiba, Shikamaru, Tenten, Lee, Shino, Sakura, Choji, Ino, Hinata, and Neji were all still alive, in addition to Iruka and Yamato standing next to her. Shikaku opened his eyes behind them to discover that he and the other Jonin who chose not to engage in combat were still alive. Lee questioned incoherently, "We're alive?" Naruto's voice answered, "Yes, you all are." From the press box, Tsunade questioned, "Why are we alive, Naruto?" Naruto turned to face her and smiled slightly. With his arms extended to indicate that everyone else had been killed and was gone forever, Naruto said, "Because I knew all of you still had good in your hearts. If you didn't, that jutsu would have killed you instantly, just like the rest of Konoha." Naruto hurled a vial that contained some of his chakra at Tsunade, saying, "Even Sasuke is alive, kinda. Take this. Administer this to him and he'll survive. Now if you'll excuse me, I have some more business to take care of." Sakura questioned, "Like what?" Naruto grinned and turned his back on them. Akayuri watched the three of them leap out of the arena, silently wishing for Naruto's safe return. The age-old enemy kind. Yahiko, Kurama, come on. Let's get this over with. You guys head to a Megacure. Conan, you lead them there. We'll back in a flash. Naruto said as the three of them left the arena. Cage Tower. Sanagakure. When there was a loud boom that shook his village, Gaara was by himself in his office, working once more on paperwork. He looked up to see the storm clouds gathering. Shukaku said, Gaara. It's time. Gaara got up from his chair, grabbed his gourd, and leapt out the window onto a cloud of levitating sand. As they zipped out of the village toward the cloud source, he exclaimed, let us make haste. Iwagakure. Son Goku and Kakuo were sitting quietly meditating when Kokuo's ears perked up and he opened his eyes with a very serious expression on his face. Both of them got to their feet and bolted from the mountain beneath the ominous shadow of the thunderclouds as Son Goku opened his eyes and nodded. Kumogakure Killer B had been asleep when he was startled awake by a loud boom of thunder over the village. With haste, he put on his glasses and peered up at the pitch black sky, a thought that Yuki was also contemplating. B questioned, shit's about to hit the fan, ain't it? Yuki let out a heavy sigh. We must see your brother and free Matabi. It's time for us to go. All right, B replied before hurriedly getting dressed, leaving his room, and running up the stairs to his brother's office. He suddenly entered and noticed his brother, lost in thought, staring out at the approaching storm. A turned around and motioned for his assistant Mabui to approach him. We have to free Matabi, it's very important. Mabui, I need you to unseal the Nibi from the Kohaku no Johei. Mabui answered, but sir. But it gave her a serious look that told her everything. She bowed and said, yes, sir. Before making her way to the enormous orange pot that contained Matabi and making a number of hand gestures. She cried out, release, as the pot's lid flew off, releasing a blue chakra that formed Matabi inside the spacious office. She changed into a human very quickly, joining B and giving each other nods as they hurried out of the office. 5 hours later, at the mountain's graveyard border. As they approached the foreboding location, Naruto was the first to set foot inside, with dark clouds gathering above them. Yahiko removed his mask to spit out some black goo and quickly put it back on, saying, this place gives even me the creeps, has such a bad aura. As he and Son Goku descended from the trees beside him, Naruto, Kurama, and Ketsueki said, tell me about it. He inquired, are the others on the way? And Son Goku nodded. While waiting for the others to arrive, Kurama said, okay, we all know what we're going up against. We have no idea how powerful Hagoromo's son is, but considering he is his son, we have to be very careful. Naruto remarked, yes, this is going to be really dangerous, as Matabi and B knelt down next to them, with Matabi going so far as to stand near Kurama. Gaara and Saiken soon arrived. The latter had left a Megacure after sensing the chakra emanating from the clouds. Good, everyone is here. Now, I will say this again. This is going to be extremely dangerous, so we must be careful. This man is Hagoromo's son we're dealing with, so I cannot guarantee that we will all walk out of here alive, warned everyone who was present. Now, to increase our numbers, I am going to request that all Jinchuriki unseal their Biju from them so we can have a little more manpower. Once this whole ordeal is over with, I can reseal them back into you all. Naruto said, Ketsueki being the first to. Placing his hand on Ketsueki's chest, Naruto asked Chome in her head if she was ready. Do it. After closing his eyes and turning his hand into chakra, Naruto dipped it deeply into Ketsueki and pulled out a blob of chakra from within himself. He then released the chakra and watched as it transformed into Chome, who had already assumed her human form. Yahiko was the next to join the group, with Naruto eliminating Isobu from within him before B. Gaara, Shukaku, and Yuki soon after. This brought the total number of members to 14. Naruto turned and walked into the hills of the mountain's graveyard, unaware that their presence had already been detected. Now that that's taken care of, let's get rid of this guy once and for all. Gotta get my shell shined, Isobu smirked. The red-eyed man opened his eyes, got off the throne, and looked up at the suspended bodies of white Zetsu clones hanging from its roots. So, they think that they can beat me with manpower I'm going to have to teach them a lesson for that assumption, he said. The man, a Zetsu clone, said, Spiral Zetsu, come. The spiral pattern covered his entire body, with the exception of his lower arms and legs, and ended in a single eye hole on his face. "Yes, master?" he inquired, the man glaring down at him while he held his sword Jubi. Spiral Zetsu nodded as his body opened, revealing he was hollow inside. The man said, "I still have yet to recover from revival, so I shall have need of your body so I can perform my jutsu." The man removed his cloak to reveal that he was wearing a necklace made up of 3 red magatama around his neck, along with black combat pants, stockings, and sandals. He entered Spiral Zetsu's body, and it engulfed him fully, causing his right eye to glow out of the clone's single eye hole. He approached his cloak, pulled up the hood, and sheathed Jubi into the integrated sheath on the back before covering his body once more. Then, waiting for his guests to arrive, he sat down on the ground and closed his eyes to meditate. The exterior of Madara's former abode. When Naruto reached the crater's edge, he saw the entrance to the former notorious Madara Uchiha's lair covered in the collarbone and rib cage of a large, dead animal. "There it is. Do you think he knows we're here?" inquired Gaara. Naruto slid down the slope without responding, with Kurama and the others trailing behind. They approached the entrance, paused, and stared into the gaping opening. With a small ball of fire igniting in his hand and then floating into the air to provide them with light, Naruto exclaimed, "Kaijiten! Kasi Fureya!" They descended the enormous flight of stairs through the tunnel and started to descend into the earth until they came to a single set of enormous stone doors. Everyone sensed Ketsuiki's chakra signature, paling at the door from the other side. It exceeded their imaginations in size. With a soft creak, Naruto lifted his hand to the doors and released a breath he wasn't aware he was holding. When they entered, they were met with a massive tree stem that reached hundreds of feet into the sky, with the pinkish petals of a flower perched on top of it visible from the ground. Then, in the center of the spacious room, they noticed a figure sitting on the floor covered in a black cloak. They were unable to identify him. The man slowly rose off the ground, opened his eyes, and grinned behind his spiral, patterned face. He turned to face the group and said, "What a nice gift. You all have spared me the trouble of finding you all by coming here instead." Naruto's eyes narrowed at the sight of the red eye and spiral pattern. As the man cocked his head to the left and pointed at them, Kurama whispered, "That looks like Obito." Naruto nodded in agreement. Naruto growled at the man and said, "You must be the new Biju my father entrusted his hopes of beating me into." He growled, the man laughing at his threat, "And you must be his eldest son, the guy I'm going to murder here pretty quickly." The man raised his right hand to address the group, saying, "Boy, you have no idea who you are dealing with. I am the son of the Sage of Six Paths, inheritor of his great eyes, chakra, and spiritual energy, Indra Otsutsuki." With a sudden thrust of his body, Son Goku was grabbed by Ankoku by the throat, causing Naruto and Kurama to widen in shock. "And I shall be your end. Bansho Tenin," he exclaimed. After struggling to break free from the man's hold, Son Goku exclaimed, "Enin Hoka." With a sly smile, Indra let out green flames that seemed to be absorbing his chakra, but they quickly went out of control, shocking the Yonbi. With a small shake of his hand, Indra said, "Preta Path." The group of former Jinchuriki and Biju watched in horror as Son Goku, who was made of chakra, wrinkled up like a grape and turned to dust in a matter of seconds. As Son Goku appeared to have died, Kakuo stammered, "Oh my god. What the hell did he just do?" Naruto's whole body trembled with fear as Indra smirked and said, "And don't worry, he won't be coming back anytime soon. I've absorbed all his chakra so he can't be revived. Son Goku is truly dead." He used an ability granted through the Rinnegan called the Preta Path. It allows the user to absorb any jutsu thrown at it and can absorb chakra through contact with another person. The first thing he did was called Banso Tenin, an ability similar to the laws of gravitational attraction and repulsion through the Diva Path. "I don't know how he can use them though, since he doesn't possess the Rinnegan," stuttered Naruto as Indra laughed again. He answered, Saiken snapping his fingers when he realized the solution, "You didn't listen. I inherited my father's eyes, and you know that my blood splits into 2 well-known clans, both of which possessing one of the 3 great dojutsu. You're the ancestor of the Hyuga and Uchiha clans, their eyes having descended from yours." Indra pointed to his spiral patterned eye and said, "Correct, you see, my eyes are a hybrid of all 3 great dojutsu. I possess the abilities of the Byakugan, the Sharingan, and my father's Rinnegan up to a certain degree, meaning I can only use 3 of the 6 paths along with the outer path. Then he drew his sword and pointed its tip at them. He said, "Now enough talking, I need your chakra." Naruto growled in retaliation. "Kaijiten. Jigoku no Ain no Hano," he exclaimed, unleashing a massive jet of red fire that shot in the direction of the aged Otsutsuki. "Preta path," he exclaimed, raising his hand in the air and causing a shield of white chakra to form and swiftly connect with and absorb the fire. Abruptly, Isobu materialized behind him, his cheeks dripping with water as he launched a compressed water ball towards him. "Amaterasu," was yelled by Indra as he swung Jubi backwards and sliced straight through the water ball. He then locked eyes with the Biju. A flash of black flame struck one of the cave's walls and started to eat away at the stone, almost hitting Isobu in the process. After absorbing all of Naruto's jutsu by then, Indra leapt into the air, ducked under a swipe from Kurama's claws, and slammed into the ground behind him, exclaiming, "Hake Hisangeki." He threw his fist forward, causing Kurama to crash into one of the cavern's walls and leave a massive crater. The chakra burst into Kurama's back. Yahiko cried out, silently cursing, "We can't fight someone that has the powers of all 3 great dojutsu," as he felt his water mask be destroyed by an Amaterasu blast from Indra. Naruto nodded as he joined up with B and Kakuo. "I have an idea. I know a blind spot for the Byakugan, but it's tough to reach unless he's distracted," Naruto said. "I need you, Kakuo and B to distract him while I go in for the kill." At the same time, Naruto transformed into his 2-tailed version 1 form, raced behind Indra, leapt into the air, and formed a chakra receiver in his left hand. They both attacked Indra simultaneously. "Suck on this asshole," he cried as he skillfully threw the chakra receiver down the blind spot where it pierced his neck and caused blood to flow from the wound. Kakuo exclaimed, "Nice one," just as Indra began to cough and he withdrew the rod from his neck, sending a stream of white chakra shooting out of his body and dispersing into thin air. He exhaled, "What the hell?" But Indra waved both of her arms and yelled, "Shinra Tensai." The force of the repulsion blasted everyone in the room back, creating a small crater beneath Indra. Then he formed a single seal and slapped it to the ground. "Good job, you actually managed to score a hit on me. Though all it did was take away the powers of the Byakugan. You're going to have to do a lot more than that to kill me, if you can," sneered Indra. Kachiyose no Jutsu. A massive cloud of smoke surrounded him, and Naruto believed he saw something reptilian emerge from it before it vanished. When the smoke cleared, Indra reappeared. He exclaimed, "Nice summon," as Gaara tried to crush him with a wave of sand she sent behind him. Not only did Indra avoid the sand strike, but he also rolled away and launched another Amaterasu blast at Gaara, compelling him to duck behind a wall of sand. "What the fuck is going on here?" Matabi asked herself as she saw something move, albeit very slightly, across the wall and noticed how it shifted slightly, almost like camouflage. She cried out, trying to follow the invisible creature, "He did summon something, but I'm not sure of what it is. It seems like it's invisible." "Wait a minute, if he possessed the powers of the Rinnegan, then he must possess its shared field of vision, which means..." "Matabi, where is it?" "To your left." The invisible creature's camouflage vanished, revealing it to be a giant chameleon with the Rinnegan before it poofed away, exactly as Naruto had predicted, as he spun to his left and threw his fist into its spine. That kid must have fought someone with the Rinnegan in the past, damn it, they figured out that trick, Indra thought to herself just before B suddenly materialized and smashed the crook of his arm into his throat, sending him flying back into the stem of the enormous flower. "Suck on my lariat, motherfucker," he yelled, causing Indra to fall to the ground grunting while Spiral Zetsu was heavily bleeding green liquid out of his throat. Before he could get better, sand encircled him, and Gaara firmly closed his hand while uttering the words, "Sabaku Soso." It is said that Indra was killed when the sand around him collapsed and a fountain of green liquid burst forth, splattering everywhere. When Gaara opened the sand, what she saw was Spiral Zetsu's tattered cloak and crushed remains, his body crushed and open like a flower with nothing inside. Isobu exclaimed, "Where'd he go?" as a shadowy figure with black metal gleaming in his hands descended behind him like a cat. Everyone turned around when they heard the sound of metal piercing flesh to see Jubi's tip extending outward from Isobu's chest, trickling blood. He said, "Why?" Yahiko, before his body, like Son Goku's, withered and turned to dust. Yahiko yelled, Isobu. Before growling angrily at Indra and making a sign with his left hand. He growled, Raiden. Kaminari Farashu Gyaku no Farashu, as his lightning mask leapt down behind Indra, cracking its jaws and unleashing a lightning storm that tore apart his back, causing a nasty burnt area that rapidly healed after the Sharingan's chakra was released from his body. Then Indra looked at the group of people and clapped his hands together. Damn it, there goes my Sharingan. They're more persistent than I thought. Very well, time to use that special jutsu father created. Indra thought to himself. Gedo. Henzai. Shin no Gomen Shoko, he exclaimed, causing Naruto's eyes to enlarge as he noticed his red eyes spinning slowly. Everyone else displayed the same reaction. All of a sudden, Naruto was in a pitch black room with nothing but darkness. His vision went hazy and his whole body shook due to a disruption in his chakra. In the darkness, one Rinnegan eye snapped open, glaring down at Naruto. Before he could look up at it, a black metal rod shot out of the ground and smashed through his wrist, causing Naruto to grunt and dribble blood down it. Another eye opened, this one on the other side of the room, and a second black chakra rod protruded from the floor, piercing his chest all the way through. He cackled, "Ah, I gotta get out of this genjutsu," and spat blood. Blood began to run down everyone's chins in the real world as a result of their experiences inside the genjutsu, fooling their bodies into believing it to be real. Naruto started to search his mind for a genjutsu solution, and he eventually discovered it when he recalled something Shikamaru had said. Her name was Tayuya. During his battle with one of the Sound Four. I was stuck in her genjutsu and the only way I could get out of it was I had to break my own thumb and use the pain to snap me out of it. As he sent a trail of chakra up to his wrist and wrapped it tightly, bracing himself for the pain, he thought, perfect. Shaking his fractured wrist, he awoke with a start and saw that Indra was facing the other way, making other hand gestures, and that everyone else was still under the genjutsu. Naruto instantly entered his four-tailed version 2 form and started to shape into a tiny, dark sphere. Biju. Dama. As Indra spun around, he gasped, what? Just in time to see the other Biju and former Jinchuriki snap out of the genjutsu, and the Biju Dama slam into his gut and explode in a massive dome of fire and chakra. With his black shirt ripped off and his eyes brimming with fury, Indra emerged from a heap of debris, growling Shukaku. Nice save Naruto, now to finish off that guy. The cavern exploded as the blast, which was many times larger than the one that Nagato used with his Diva Path to carve out the village into a massive crater, erupted, destroying the entire cavern and entrance to the hideout and replacing the surrounding forest with a massive crater. Shinra Tensai, he yelled. After standing up in a daze, Naruto felt his body explode forward, his eyes going wide as he struck Indra's fist, taking the wind out of him and leaving him kneeling in the face and slashing Jubi across his chest. He staggered backward, revealing a portion of the cloak where the sword had slashed him before it had reformed over it through his demonic chakra. That sword can absorb chakra too? Inquired Naruto. Kurama, Matabi, and the others started to slowly rise from the ground as Indra smirked and heaved the sword over his shoulder. It is crafted from the same material as those chakra receivers in your arm and function as the same thing, only this sword has a mind of its own. Within this sword is the last remaining fragment of the chakra from the legendary Jubi, the 10 tails before it was split apart into the 9 Biju by my father. Revealed Indra, and Naruto's eyes widened in. I plan to capture you all, then use the chakra in this sword to remake the Jubi once again and transform it back into its original form, the Shinju tree, and use its power to cast the unlimited Tsukuyomi onto this pathetic world. Naruto cried out. Hagoromo said you used your chakra to return to this world and manifest yourself into the body of someone I once met or knew. Just who the hell are you? Indra smirked as he dug his fingers into the skin of his face and started to pull it away, revealing a completely new face that made Naruto feel as though he had never seen before. As Naruto moved away from him, Indra spoke. You recognize this man, don't you? The man's face belonged to none other than the person who had inspired him to set out on this mission for peace. It was Nagato Uzumaki's face. Naruto growled, You bastard, as Indra shed his skin, exposing Nagato's younger, revitalized body and red hair, a characteristic unique to the Uzumaki clan, while Indra's eyes and voice remained the same. As he kicked Naruto in the gut and sent him flying back to the others, Kurama caught him. I found this body the most suitable to my needs since he once held the Rinnegan. What's wrong? You seem like you've seen a ghost, said Indra, laughing. What happened? Naruto stammered. He manifested his chakra into Nagato's body. I can't fight him. It's Nagato, but Kurama met his gaze. Naruto looked up at Kurama, shocked by what his friend had just said. That is not Nagato. That is Indra, and we need to stop him before he unleashes the unlimited Tsukuyomi. If you're going to act like some crybaby bitch, then get the hell out of here, Kurama exclaimed. As lightning flashed from the dark storm clouds overhead, Naruto stood shakily and said, Why? You're right. That's not Nagato. He may look like him, but it's not. He then turned to face Indra. Yahiko raised his hand in the air and said, Here's something that will even the odds. Kirigakure no Jutsu. As a swirling spiral of mist snaked out from his fingers and started to cover the crater, Indra grimaced as the thick mist engulfed him. Jubi angrily remarked, They think they can hide inside this mist. They're wrong. Indra smirked and knelt down, closing his eyes. Geto. Tenho Saito. He exclaimed, opening his eyes as the mist's chakra faded to a dull gray and Naruto's and the other's chakra brightened to red. He noticed 3 figures encircling one another to his left and identified the chakra as the person who had performed the jutsu. As he carefully made his way towards Yahiko through the mist, he thought to himself, Your own jutsu just became your downfall. Yahiko, who was skilled in the silent killing technique, was not even aware of his approach. As the mist began to clear, Naruto turned around, expecting to find Indra dead at Yahiko's feet, but instead he got the opposite impression. After stabbing Jubi through the heart, Indra let him fall to the ground, his other hearts rapidly swarming in. He thought, what the, as the fire heart blasted a burst of fire at him, making him scramble backward as the fire mask and his lightning and earth hearts sprang into his body. Yahiko's body jolted up and down as the earth mask vanished abruptly and the tangle of tendrils coiled around his back. Yahiko was given a second chance at life when the earth mask replaced his damaged heart with its own, bringing color back to his skin. With a growl, Yahiko's tendrils burst out of his mask and tore it off. His arms split at the seams along his wrist, forearm, and middle upper arm, resembling tentacles. As Yahiko's fire and lightning hearts emerged from the tangle of tendrils still swarming out from his back, Indra exclaimed, What the hell are you? Yahiko growled as his fire mask's mouth snapped open, a fireball beginning to form. It's called the Earth Grudge Fear, and it's only fitting I steal your heart to replace the one I lost. Kaden. Goga Mekyaku, he cried, the mask unleashing a massive jet of fire toward Indra, who did nothing more than lift his hand and let the jutsu begin to be absorbed by the Pratapath power. Abruptly, one of Yahiko's arms curved around the dome and lunged towards him, striking him squarely in the jaw. This caused him to lose focus, dispel the chakra dome, and let Yahiko's intense inferno-filled jutsu overwhelm him. When the man would emerge from the blazing fire, Ketsueki would form 3 tentacles of blood in preparation and yell, Hurry up and use your chakra to summon Hagoromo so we can seal this guy up permanently. Exactly, Naruto exclaimed, closing his eyes and attempting to call forth Hagoromo. He could feel the man's chakra inside of him, but Hagoromo would not materialize. As he came out of the fire and put his hands together, Indra laughed, Ha ha ha. You're trying to summon my own father to seal me away. Tough luck, pal, but he ain't coming. His eyes were filled with madness as a black figure formed around him, a skeletal body taking shape, made entirely of the roaring flames of Amaterasu. It was Indra's very own Susanoo, crafted entirely from Amaterasu's dark flames. Tenge Shinsei, he exclaimed, using his Susanoo to simultaneously form the hand signs of the ram, snake, and bird. Immediately, a dark shadow covered the entire crater. When Naruto peered up at the sky, everyone else soon had a terrified expression on their faces as they saw the enormous chunk of rock crashing through the clouds and toward them. Shukaku exclaimed, How the hell are we supposed to stop that? Ketsueki then turned to face Naruto with serious eyes. Naruto, get me angry. What are you talking about? I said make me angry. Why the hell would I do that for? You'd go on a rampage. Just do it, goddammit, exclaimed Ketsueki, and Naruto scowled as he readied a few sharp remarks. Ketsueki's veins widened and his eye twitched at the words that Naruto uttered. His fists became so tight that he was drawing blood from his fingernails as they dug into his palm. With a growl akin to a ferocious beast, He let loose enormous tendrils of blood that shot from his back and slithered through the atmosphere, colliding with the meteorite's underside and causing the massive rock to begin to slow down. Through grunts, Ketsueki said, "It's working, keep going," as his feet started to dig into the rock. Ketsueki growled in rage as the tentacles grew longer and his eyes filled with insane rage. "The only reason you're alive is because I granted you mercy, you low-life piece of shit. I would have finished the job those Anbu started on you and made the world a better place without you stinking it up," yelled Naruto. As a second, twice the size meteorite appeared above the first, Indra thought. He actually stopped the meteor? Well, let's see if he can handle two. Ketsueki let out a grunt as his feet plunged 3 feet into the earth and kept sinking as the meteorites fell toward Earth. It crashed down into the first. As Ketsueki used all of his brute strength to stop the 2 meteors, a feat that surprised Indra, Naruto kept cursing at him in the most obscene ways, which made Ketsueki's rage explode. Respectfully, he remarked, "That young man possesses a lot of brute strength." His sword Jubi, on the other hand, felt differently. "Kill him." With a swift movement, Indra seized Jubi's hilt and charged towards the group. Ketsueki's eyes widened as blood spurted from his abdomen, cascading down his cloak and onto the ground in a massive stream, and Naruto barely had time to blink before he saw a flash of black. "Huh?" he questioned, before his tentacles snapped off and he split into 2, his waist and legs coming away from his upper body. "Ketsueki!" exclaimed Shomei, running to her Jinchuriki and cradling his head in her arms as he started to slowly lose consciousness and blink his eyes quickly. "Shomei! It feels so cold, don't go, please just hang on," she exclaimed, her eyes beginning to lose color. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. "Biju! Dama!" exclaimed Saiken, who had changed into his Biju form and attacked the meteors with a Biju Dama, essentially destroying them and causing rubble and debris to rain down into the crater. Petrified, Naruto could only stare at Ketsueki's death in Chomei's arms as Indra, a few yards away, watched on with a cunning smirk. Kakuo, also in his Biju form, yelled, "Tsunori," as he charged Indra like a bull and drove his horns into the ground, tearing up the stone while Ankoku deftly jumped back to avoid taking any significant damage. Killer Bee asked, "Naruto, what happened bro? Why didn't that Fu Hagoromo show up?" As Naruto shook off the memory of Ketsueki, Shomei having already closed his eyes and still crying over his passing. "I'm not sure, I can sense his chakra but I'm unable to extract it," he remarked, and then Indra's laughter broke the awkward silence. As he made more hand gestures and took a deep breath, Indra exclaimed, "Wondering why you can't summon my father? Allow me to let you in on a little secret. You can't summon him unless you have all his chakra present. And if I can recall, I've already killed 2 Biju, so it's impossible to summon him. You all are going to die." "Kaden. Zukoku," he exclaimed, spitting out 3 fireballs the size of basketballs. Saiken then leapt in front of Kakuo and the others, allowing the massive explosions caused by the fireballs to damage him rather than the others. As Saiken used his chakra to heal himself and his acid spit to divert Indra's attention, he exclaimed, "We need to figure out a way to seal him, fast." Kurama looked at the others and said, "There is one way we can seal him." Naruto raised an eyebrow in response. "It's similar to the Shiki Fujin that Hiruzen used to seal the first and second Hokage's soul along with his during Otto's invasion of Konoha. Only you seal their soul into your own body and take your own life. The Shikigisei Inkan," he said. Shukaku immediately understood what he meant. He looked at the others and said, "One of us has to sacrifice themselves to seal Indra," causing Naruto's eyes to drop as he stood up. "I'll do it. I've already gotten my revenge." Naruto was astounded by Kurama's proposal and responded, "No, I will." "Kurama, no. You can't." "I can and I will. You see, all this time I've been feeding you my chakra little by little, you growing in power while I shrunk. That time I transformed into my Biju form when we attacked Otogakure was my last. I can't transform anymore and can't use my demonic chakra much anymore without becoming exhausted. Naruto, I've become human. Which means I can perform the Shikigisei Inkan." Naruto exclaimed, "I don't care if you're a human or not, you can't die." Just as Kurama put his hand on his shoulder and met his gaze directly. Kurama spoke to Naruto, who was looking at him sad and with an open mouth, wanting to say something but not knowing how. "Naruto, I've trained you in everything I know and you yourself have become a Biju. It's time that I step down and let you take my spot as the Kyuubi, Kurama said. Rising from his kneeling position, Kurama glared at Indra, saying, now go. Get out of here. All of you, I'll hold him off long enough for you to get away from here, and whatever you do, once the sealing is complete, don't release my jutsu. He smirked and said, I wonder what you have up your sleeve this time, just as he felt something encircle his wrists. Gazing downward, he observed golden chakra chains encircling his arms and legs, impeding his motion. Upon reaching the final sign, Kurama exclaimed, Fuin no Jutsu. Shiki Gisei Inkan. Just as he finished speaking, a spectral representation of the Shinigami materialized behind him, opening its arms, one of which was beaded. As Kurama's soul was extracted from him and secured behind him by strands of the Shinigami's white hair, Indra's eyes widened, beginning to comprehend the magnitude of what he was doing. I'm going to take you with me, bastard, Kurama exclaimed, grabbing Indra by the shoulders. He then grunted as the Shinigami protruded from his stomach, latching onto Indra's stomach and gradually drawing out Kurama's soul. Indra attempted to break free from his bonds, but his power diminished as his soul was being drawn out. Seal! He exclaimed, and as Indra's soul and chakra were sealed into Kurama's body, his shirt tore open and the seal's mark appeared on his skin. Kurama gasped for air. He said, casting a weary glance at Naruto, who was staring at him fearfully, and Naruto. As blood collected from his lips and trickled down his chin, Kurama grinned and said, I'm glad that I was sealed inside of you, and that we became friends. The Shinigami had taken the knife from his teeth and stabbed Kurama's soul, devouring the blue version of him. Once more grinning, Kurama fell to his knees and eventually hit the ground, at which point Naruto and the others hurried to help him. Turning him over, Naruto observed the contented smile on Kurama's face, chuckling slightly at how he used to be constantly resentful, bitter, and furious. Goodbye, Kurama. He thought to himself as he sealed himself off and watched as flames consumed Kurama's body, turning it into a red crust that protected him from the weather. While Chomei, still in mourning, was retrieving Ketsueki, he picked up the crystal coffin and said, come on, we must return to Omegakure and meet with the others. When Yahiko saw that Indra was still holding his sword Jubi, he grinned and stepped on the blade firmly, shattering it in two. He joined the others in leaving the crater and unpleasant memories in the past, vowing never to go back to that horrible place ever again. After 5 days, with heavy hearts and dejected moods, Naruto and company made their way back to Omegakure. At the entrance to Pain's tower, Konan and the rest of Akatsuki greeted them, but all they got in return was sorrow and grief. Killer Bee left the group, taking Kakuo and Gaara back to their separate villages after Shukaku had resealed inside of them. Choosing to remain in AIM instead of going back to Kumo, Chomei and Matabi took Ketsueki's body and buried him outside of Omegakure in the forest. They also constructed a shrine in his honor, decorated it with flowers, and placed his ring on top of the tombstone. After taking out the 6 pods that had once contained the 6 paths of pain, Naruto organized his study and office and moved everything into the pod room. He placed the red crystal, which now contained Kurama, in the room that had been cleared out as a memorial to him in his memory. As they stared up at the crystal, Akayuri stood next to him. Naruto smiled softly at Kurama's warm smile, something he had never expected to see from him. You miss him, don't you? She questioned, to which Naruto nodded silently while dabbing at a tiny tear in his eye. He made the ultimate decision to save the world and died for his friends. Without you as a friend, he never would have done anything like this. You helped him to change the way he used to behave. Now that he's gone, I miss him too, but his legacy will live on through you. Akayuri leaned up against Naruto's arm and wrapped her arms around him. He smiled and put his arm around her, looking down at her. Yes, he was a great friend, but I guess I didn't know that until that day. Despite the fact that he never showed it, he was always there for me. However, I just wish that, Naruto uttered as he wiped away more tears from his eyes. All I want is to be the one in his position. With a trembling voice, Naruto said, I'll never be able to forgive myself. Akayuri grinned and gave him a light punch to the arm. She smiled and said, remember, don't get soft on me. Naruto approached the crystal, put his hand on its smooth surface, and looked up at Kurama's smile. He laughed and patted the crystal, saying, hey, Akayuri, you, Konan, or I are the only people who should be able to enter this room. Additionally, we can't release him from the crystal. She questioned, not understanding what he meant. Why? Kurama employed the Shiki-Gisei Inkan, a forbidden technique that allows the Shinigami to seize and seal the target's soul and chakra into the caster's body in return for the caster's soul. The seal will remain intact until it is touched by someone who possesses his chakra, such as you, me, or any other member of Akatsuki. At that point, the seal will break, transforming his body into a vessel for the sealed soul and chakra. Naruto turned a serious gaze toward Akayuri and explained. So, what are your plans for Akatsuki? Returning to Naruto's side, she asked as they both looked back up at Kurama. I'm going to create the Akatsuki Corporation and set up Akatsuki bases in every hidden village. The company will act as a buffer between the organization and handle all diplomatic and social projects, providing the villages with weapons and other necessities while the organization maintains its independence and engages in illicit activities, akin to Anbu. We're going to assist the world in overcoming these difficult times and the conflicts of the past, bringing about the peace that Yahiko and Nagato so desperately wanted. Naruto stated, "That's a promise," and then he gave Akayuri a hug and a forehead kiss. She chuckled and said, "So now you're the hero?" Naruto grinned shyly and rubbed the back of his head. As they turned away from the crystal and left the room, he said, "I guess you could say that." The sound of multiple gears turning and locks snapping shut signaled the door's closure. As the sun shone on the immaculate red crystal, Kurama's smile gleamed from within like the light of a fresh day. Then there was a loud crack. A tiny fissure or crack began to appear in the crystal, and it took some time to gradually enlarge. Kurama's expression began to change, going from a warm smile to a chilly frown. "We will be free once again, we will be free once more, all in good time. All in good time."
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.